Hi guys, I know it's been a while since I've done a video for my channel. It's been since May, I do believe, which is a really long time. Hope everybody had a good summer. I've been really busy, hence the lack of updates, but it was really cool to speak to some of you on World Ballet Day last week, when we had basically the live streams of all the ballet companies. And then if you watched on YouTube Live, there was a really cool little chat feature, and it was really cool to see some of you recognise me and say that you really liked my videos, which is really cool. So today's video is basically going to be about something that is very common, which is big toe pain on point, and how you can stop that from happening or even prevent it from happening to you. It's a really common problem. I myself have had it lots of times and I still get it even now, but I have some really cool ways to sort it out so it doesn't get worse, because there's nothing, you don't want to make it basically turn into a bigger problem than it already is. So why do you get big toe pain on point? First of all, society depicts point work as being painful. You see pictures of ballerina feet that are all like mangled and blisters, bloody toes, all that kind of stuff. Well, as you may already know, you don't actually need to have bad feet like that. It's all down to having the correct point shoe and making sure that you take care of your feet too. So what happens is when you're on point, your foot may move around in the shoe and basically your big toe is hitting the platform. Now, if your shoe is fitted correctly, you shouldn't feel that your big toe is hitting the bottom of the floor. You should feel lifted out of the shoe and supported, especially around this part of the shoe here. The box itself and the wings of the shoe are there to grip your foot nice and snug. If the shoe is not fitted correctly, this will cause dancers to basically sink in the shoe, and that will basically mean that the dancer will get really bad toe pain. But there are other factors. I just want to go through quickly some reasons why this happens. The first one is your point shoes are dead. Now, unfortunately, not everybody knows or can recognise when their shoe is dead. Really, teachers should be looking out for this, but I've come across plenty of dancers who unfortunately don't know when their shoe is dead and their teacher hasn't even checked. Well, really, if you do feel that you're getting some pain, always go to your teacher first. To know that your point shoe is dead, a few of the telltale signs, each dancer breaks their shoe differently. Some dancers, basically the box of the shoe will go soft, which is this part here. It will go really squishy, like you see here, this is a new shoe. I can't press that really because it's nice and new, it's solid. When a shoe breaks down, the paste in the box basically erodes. As the paste erodes, the box becomes very soft and squishy, and it means that you lose that support that you really need. So when the box does go, that means it's not gripping you round here where it should. So of course your foot is just going to slide down towards the platform, meaning that when the dancer goes from flat onto point, her feet sink and bang, she's getting big toe pain. This also can cause, of course, blisters around the side of the foot, even on top of the knuckles too. So the dead point shoe is definitely one of the main causes for this. You can also find that if the shank goes in the shoe, which some dancers tend to break the shank first rather than the box, but this again could be sorted with the correct point shoe. When the shank goes, it loses its support and the dancer again isn't lifted or supported where she should be, especially around the arch, so the foot basically slides down the shoe. So that's another reason. Another reason is the wrong box shape. So as you can see, this shoe here is quite square. The box shape is all to do with how you look at the shoe from the front, and you can see here, it kind of starts here and it goes down, right? That's the box shape. Point shoes come in different box shapes. This one is, well, it's kind of like a semi-tapered to square, but Triumph is mainly a squarish box. If your feet are, say, tapered, you need a tapered box. If your feet are semi-tapered, a semi-tapered box. If your feet are a square box. So sometimes you'll see dancers with really square feet that are basically crammed into a tapered box. So if you can imagine someone who's got a square foot being crammed in such a tiny area will basically mean that her toes are crumpled and the shoe is just not supporting where it should be. A similar thing is dancers with tapered feet being in a square box are obviously going to sink because the shoe is too wide where it actually needs to be gripping her foot. That leads me on to the next point, which is basically width. So the width of the shoe is across here, and Pointe shoes come in all different widths, and each brand comes up very differently, which is why you should always go for a fitting. Sometimes you'll find that dancers are in such a wide width shoe, and as the shoe actually breaks in, it goes even wider, which then, you know, the dancer's basically just going to sink. I've had that problem myself, and it is really painful. It's quite common that fitters will, some fitters in particular, will go with what the dancer feels, which is obviously quite important, but the problem is sometimes, especially if you're new to Pointe, you don't understand what it's meant to feel like. So they will often go for a shoe that feels comfortable, which, yes, it's meant to be comfortable to a certain extent, but it's not meant to feel like a slipper. So basically this ends up with the dancer getting fitted in a shoe that is too wide for her, and then later down the line, of course, when the shoe breaks in, it gets far too wide and she sinks in the shoe. So you want to make sure that you get the correct width. Another factor is a shoe that is too long. So the length of the shoe, commonly another problem I've seen a lot of dancers are basically in a shoe that's too long for them. When you pinch at the heel, there should only be a slight pinch and the shank should line up correctly, and if you're a fitter you will know all about that. So sometimes you'll find dancers who you can pinch like this and you shouldn't be able to do that. If you can do that, your shoe is definitely too long. The shank should line up correctly, and also you should feel when you're on the flat and you go onto Pointe that your foot doesn't shift too much. So when you're here and you go onto Pointe, if you feel a dramatic shift, so which is called sinking, then you know you're either in a shoe that's too wide or a shoe that is too long. So making sure you have the correct length shoe is also a way to go. Another common problem for people getting big toe pain on Pointe is the specific shoe they're wearing. The box is too soft to start with. Now, some brands I've particularly worn in the past don't have a particularly strong box to start with. Now, some dancers think, oh, but the box is too hard. Now, that's not a problem because you really do want a box that is hard, because if you think about it, it's a Pointe shoe's lifespan isn't that long anyway. So if you start with a Pointe shoe that has a soft box, then it's going to break in quicker, but that means that it's not going to last you as long and it's not going to support you where it needs to be supporting you. So it's really vital that the box has good strength and isn't going to, you know, like dissolve quickly. I just want to mention as well that the health of your toes and your toenails. It's quite common that dancers will end up with ingrown toenails and they're not aware that they've actually got an ingrown toenail. Now, I myself suffer with ingrown toenails and I can tell you the pain is horrendous. It will feel like you need to dig under your toenail itself. And some people do that and then they cut their nails too short and they think they can solve it at home, and I can guarantee you, you cannot solve it at home. You can't go on YouTube and find some video and think, oh yeah, I'll do that, you know, it will cure my ingrown toenails. Because quite often someone will cut their ingrown toenails to where they think they're going to be, and then they'll feel like okay for a few days, and then it will come back with a vengeance. The reason why is that the ingrown toenail actually isn't just at the top of the toe, but it's actually buried like down the side, and you really need to go and see a chiropodist so they can actually do it professionally, because sometimes ingrown toenails are so bad that they actually need to remove the toenail itself, and you do not want to get to that stage because you will be off of dance for a long time. So always make sure that if you feel that whatever you're doing, you know, maybe you've got the right shoe and you're still getting a really bad pain in your toenail, do go and get it checked out professionally. If you go to a doctor, they probably won't do nothing because it's very much a chiropodist's job really, and you will have to pay most likely. I mean, in England you do anyway. But it's usually something around £20, and basically you go in there, you tell them what pain you've got, they'll look at all your toes and they'll, you know, sort you out. You really must go to someone professional, I cannot stress that enough, because you also run the risk of infection if you actually start digging under your toenail yourself with, you know, I don't know, maybe like a cuticle pusher or whatever. You also want to make sure that your toenails are the right length. They don't want to be too long and they don't want to be too short. Getting the right toenail length for point work can be quite tricky at first. So I do recommend consulting your teacher who would have, you know, the right amount of experience to let you know if your toenails are the right length. What I personally like to do is every week I'll soak my feet and push my cuticles back to the right length and buff the toenails with a nail buffer thing, which is like a white block. And then I'll make sure that all my toenails are the right length, all filed down nicely. Because quite often it's common for dancers to not cut their toenails often enough, or they're not, you know, soaking them enough, or generally they don't find the time to do it, which is really important because they are your feet at the end of the day and you are on them all day, every day. So you want to make sure that you are looking after your feet. I generally recommend, if you're going to go for a pedicure, you know, like a professional pedicure, to make sure they don't remove the parts of hard skin that you need on your feet. So for me, I like my calluses on my little toes, so I tell them not to buff those off. But remember that you don't want to have hard skin where you don't actually need it, for example on the actual toenails or areas where you're going to develop a corn. And that's another thing that's quite common for dancers with big toe pain, is again they could have a corn under the nail and it might not look like you've got one, but when you see someone professional they can advise you on what you've got. And I know this video is quite long, but there are so many reasons for big toe pain, so I wanted to go through all the options. Another common problem, which I've had as well, is toenail fungus. It really is quite gross. Basically, the nail gets moisture underneath it and it grows into a fungus, and you want to make sure that you're keeping the nail as dry as possible. It's quite tricky to treat and it can come literally out of nowhere. Your toenail may look discoloured and it may feel a bit bumpy or rigid. Then is the time to go and see someone. Don't leave it. The longer you leave it, the more it's going to progress, and I can tell you that it is really difficult to get rid of. I personally saw a Stockist quite a few times, and I also had was told to use coconut oil. Now you want to make sure you use extra virgin cold pressed unrefined coconut oil, and you want to apply it to the toenail every day. And for me it actually worked really well. It works better than all the other kind of, you know, treatments that I was given. So that's a top tip there. Generally just really make sure you're taking care of your feet. I can't stress that enough. And going for a fitting often and making sure that you're not dancing in dead shoes. You want to make sure that every few months you go for a fitting. It depends on how often you're wearing your shoes. If you're quite new to Pointe, you're doing say half an hour a week, and that's just, you know, once a week, then you may find you need a new pair of Pointe shoes in 6 months. It depends on your foot strength as well, because some dancers, even though they're new, they can kill a shoe quicker. So generally just keep a really good check on your shoes, ask your teacher, and make sure that you do go for a fitting and you don't buy your shoes online, because feet do change and, you know, your strength will change. There's a variety of factors basically, so I cannot stress that enough. You do need to go for a fitting. I often get girls contact me and say they're too far away from a fitter. You know, it's your feet. If you're on point and it's quite, you know, your all your weight is in that shoe, you know, I know you're lifting out the shoe, but still, you've got to look after your feet. You don't want to get any injuries, and if you're thinking of dancing professionally, you really don't want to mess your feet up at such a young age. It's important to actually, you know, take control of the situation. So if you're still finding that you're getting big toe pain and you've seen a professional, perhaps you've just had a new pair of Pointe shoes fitted and they fit really well, but you're still finding that you're getting that pain, there are some things we can do to rectify that. Now I'm going to start with saying, first of all, you want to check what padding you're wearing in your shoes, because you don't want to be wearing thick bulky toe pads, and you definitely don't want to be cramming anything else in your shoe that shouldn't be there. The idea is that a Pointe shoe, well, the perfect Pointe shoe fits with minimal padding, and that is why when in particular like Grishko fitters like myself, we fit Pointe shoes with either a big gel toe sock and toe tape where it's needed, or you know, toe spacers or anything, any other gadget that's required. We start minimal and build up. Quite often dancers want something a bit quicker to wear, so they will go for an advanced toe pad, which is basically a gel toe pad which has no gel underneath because it's not needed underneath anyways. It's on top of the foot and around the toes. This provides a better fit for the pointe shoe, and also, especially in the Grishko, ensures that the shoe breaks in correctly and fits to the arch, because if you've got too much of a bulky toe pad, it quite often pushes the foot upwards, meaning that the profile height of the shoe then doesn't fit correctly. The dance has more chance of knuckling in the shoe, and also it doesn't give the shank a chance to break into the arch where it should, because all the padding is pushing the foot away from the shank itself. So always make sure that you're wearing as minimal padding as you possibly can, and if you find that you're having to wear too much padding, then not only does that show that you're not in the right pointe shoe, it also shows you're probably in a shoe that's too wide for you as well, and maybe possibly too high in profile height or too low in profile height. There's various factors, so do make sure that when you go for a fitting, you do have the option to wear minimal padding to get the correct fit, so it's nice and snug and fits you like a glove. So if you've got the right shoe, you're still finding you're getting a bit of pain and you want something a little bit extra, perhaps you've had a lot of rehearsals and your toes are really feeling it, you can have some gadgets in your shoe which won't take up too much room and will help you with the pain. First one up is this little thing here, which is a silicone mini toe pad. Let's just get a zoom in on that. Basically, this little thing here is made of silicone. It comes in different sizes, and this particular one's by Grishko, which I do sell as well. And the idea is it sits in the bottom of the pointe shoe. They can be quite fiddly to put in at first, so I do recommend having a bit of a practice. I'm just going to pop this one in this shoe here so I can try to show you guys how it looks. I've just popped it into this shoe. I'm just going to see if I can get you to see that. There we go. As you can see, it just sits in the bottom of the shoe there, in the platform, making sure that the flat edge is obviously in the bottom there. Now obviously you want to get the right size as well. So there is like a size chart to tell you what size you need for whatever pointe shoe you're in. It's really cushioned, so when you're on pointe, it's basically not only going to help your big toe, but it's going to take quite a lot of, you know, shock absorption as well, which is pretty handy. So that's one thing that you can try. Always make sure, however, that you do talc them as well, because obviously the gel can erode. One of the other common things is a big gel toe sock like this, which is quite often called the big tip, like that. And it's basically just a gel toe sock that goes on your big toe, and often they're covered in fabric and they have gel underneath. You can also get the clear version. Now the clear version is a little bit less obtrusive, so basically it kind of fits more like skin. Personally, I do prefer those ones because they take up a bit less room. But if you're looking for something a bit more cushioned, or this is the only kind of one you can find, then I recommend these two. Again, you want to make sure you wash them, and you can put talc on them so the gel does not erode. Next up, you can also get these things by, I think they're by Dance Tech or something like that, an American brand. I personally wear these quite often because I've got bunions and I like to make sure that my bunions are protected, so it's got the bunion part here. You can cut them down, and you can also get them for your little toe and your tailor's bunion too. The only downside is you will find the gel does erode, as you can see here. Let me just see if I can zoom in. It doesn't want to focus for some reason. There we go. So that's down to me basically not talking it every time I've worn it and it's eroded. You can wear those either that way, or you can fold them inside out. What I've basically done is where it's eroded, I've popped a little bit of kind of like a little bit of gel off one of my toe pads that I've cut off, so I don't need to buy a new pair just yet. So there are a few gadgets that you can use. I mean, we're really lucky in this day and age. We're not, we've got so many cool things that we can try to help us with any pain we've got. But the major number one thing to remember is, if you really are in that much pain, I can guarantee you it's either down to a dead shoe, the wrong box shape, shoes too wide, shoes too long, or the box of the shoe that you're wearing is too soft to start with and isn't offering the right support, or you've got an ingrown toenail, maybe toenail fungus, or you're just simply cutting your nails too short, or they're too long to start with. I know there's a lot of things to think about there, but I can guarantee that with all this advice I've given you, you're going to find the reason why you've got such bad toe pain and hopefully be able to cure it. You want to also ensure that if you do suffer with ingrown toenails frequently, like I do, that you are soaking your feet in, I use Epsom salts, which you can buy in bulk on the internet really cheaply. Epsom salts they've got many amazing properties basically, and they're really good for dancers and really good for soaking your muscles in as well. You want to make sure that you soak your feet for around 30 minutes, and then you want to go into like buffing them down and doing your filing and pushing your cuticles back. But again, make sure that you don't push your cuticles back too far, because you will end up making them sore, which obviously you don't want to end up with extra pain somewhere else. I hope this video has been of use to you, and remember to subscribe to my channel. I'm hopefully going to now do some more videos, seeing as I have a little bit more time. And if you want a point shoe fitting with me, then I travel all around the UK. If you want to book, you can go straight to my website, www.straighttothepoint.net, and you can also check out my fan page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/tothepointfitting, and I've got loads of I post on there quite frequently. I've got pictures of all the fittings I've done and comparison photos of dead shoes to new shoes, and also you can see some of my reviews that people have left me. Thanks for watching.